As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
The Purple Mafia, with your host, Palladino Joey.
Well, we'll see. The doctors would disagree, but what do they know?
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me.
Is it worth it? I mean, you've won. You want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. It's just my enemy. That's all. My father taught me many things. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
These are wonderful things that we've achieved, and there's no limit to where we can go from here.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia, episode number 48 today, Monday, the 2nd of November, 2009. Yes, the infamous November 2nd, which people had bumper stickers a year ago. Oh, goody. Anyhow, enough of that. What a day yesterday was. What a game yesterday was. I'm sorry the show was not done immediately after the game. My new work schedule is virtually the opposite. I work very early in the morning, so I just did not have time to do the show. I had to kind of cool off and get myself to bed at a certain point, so it's just nothing I could do there. So I apologize to those of you out there wondering where the hell I was after the game of maybe all time, because Brett Favre wore purple in Lambeau. Yes, Brett Favre wore purple in Lambeau. It actually happened, and it didn't disappoint at all. It really didn't. It was just the most beautiful thing I maybe have ever seen, other than a Super Bowl championship, and I hope it does happen in the next couple months. All right, enough of my rambling. Purple Mafia is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Thank you always for downloading and listening to this show. Please become a member of the message boards. There's a button in the upper right-hand corner of the front page of thesportstuff.com that says TSS Boards. Click on that, and then look for the button that says register. I believe it'll be on the a link, on the left side after you click TSS Boards. Do click on that. Mention me, Palladino, live as a referral. Two separate words, P-A-L-A-D-I-N, as in November, O, live. Two separate words, as I mentioned, then that way I'm a referral, and oh goody, aren't you happy for me, right? So, the guest of today's show, well, it's pretty obvious what I'm going to talk about, the game, and probably a brief preview of the Detroit Lions, even though that's 2 whole days away. Very unlikely I'll be having a show in the next 2 weeks because of, so obviously no game next week, so I probably won't have a show. No need to really go into major preview talk about the Detroit Lions coming to Minnesota, especially after losing to the St. Louis Rams this last week. You know, the team the Vikings just slept walk through in St. Louis. Yeah, Detroit's coming here, so I know Detroit knows us better than St. Louis and all that good stuff, and they played us a lot better than St. Louis, but I've never seen the Vikings lose to Detroit, knock on wood, in the Metrodome. So, at least not in, I haven't seen them since I started watching football in 92, the same year Brett Favre became the quarterback of the Packers. So yeah, me and Brett have a little something in common there, other than we're both fans of the purple, wink wink. So that's the guest of today's show. I also want to give a little shout out to my Uncle David Willard, Willie. Also, the Purple Colonel, I know you're a listener of the show, and just want to tell you thanks for helping me out this weekend, and, you're a great guy, and thanks for checking out the show. You're the biggest Viking fan in the world. Willie the Sign Guy is also a nickname. Some of you may have heard of him out there. I'm sure you probably have. All right, so that shout-out is out there. Also, one final means of shout-out for you, as I am just the segue king. I'm a master, aren't I? You can tell I'm in a good mood, too, can't you? I mean, that was an awesome football game. But phone lines to call into the show, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. Do call that, please. And it is a voicemail treated as such. Mention you were calling in for Purple Mafia, and then do your shout-out statement, call in, question, anything like that. And, Jason from Delta, who's a frequent caller now, don't be shy. Keep calling in, buddy. Love it. And, the same topic me and him have been talking about of late. A big factor again yesterday. We'll get to that right after this. Here on thesportstuff.com, the new fast-breaking Wolves are bursting on the scene with Timberwolves Explosion. Hear about this exciting new era with Al Jefferson, Kevin Love, Johnny Flynn, and new coach Kurt Rambis. Check us out on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes, where we cover the Wolves like nobody else. Show your true blue, download and listen to this explosion of Timberwolves basketball. And here we are, back on Purple Mafia. We are back indeed. Episode number 48, a reminder for MP3 player users, including the iPod, Microsoft Zune, and other good things like that. Thank you always for joining the family. Your family on Purple Mafia. Yes, thank you. But anyhow, well, the dream came true, folks. The dream that I thought was dashed on July the 28th when Brett Favre decided he was going to not come back, not going to play for the Vikings and not play anymore in the NFL. I was depressed for about 3 or 4 hours, and I'm not kidding. Yeah, I was pretty down. It's just a dream come true to see Brett Favre on the Vikings and how amazing it would be. The game of all games, Brett Favre as a Viking in Lambeau, and potentially for a division championship type of. Literally, this is about the division championship here, and the Vikings have all but clinched it. I mean, obviously, 3-game lead, complete tiebreaker, swept the Packers this year. Chicago's still looming out there, but, obviously we have to still play them. I mean, we got a lot of division games left. We have a home game against Detroit. We have 2 games against Chicago. So, we got a lot of work to do yet in the division. And there's also a couple of more tough games left, including the Cincinnati Bengals game in December, which most of us thought it would be we just kicked their butts. I don't know. Cincinnati's actually the division leader over there with Pittsburgh out there in the East. That's sick. I don't think anybody saw that coming. All right, I continue to digress. Let's talk about the game, folks. And what a game it was, and what a start it was for the Minnesota Vikings. I remember being kind of scared to death, what happened last time the Vikings and Packers met. Aaron Rodgers, was virtually unstoppable until Donald Lee dropped the ball late in the game, and a couple of, mistakes here and there. Well, the Packers getting the ball on the kickoff, I was like, oh no, this is the last thing we need is to get behind against the Green Bay Packers. It's the last thing we need right now is to get behind to this team. Good news, folks. Good news indeed. The only lead the Packers would ever have in this entire game was 3-0. 3-0, and that was after a pretty big blunder by the Vikings, so we'll get to that really shortly. Green Bay falters mega in their first drive, which felt really good. It's like, oh, this is exciting. The defense looking a little better here. The Vikings also falter on theirs. And, of course, they do fumble a snap. John Sullivan just kind of flung it when Favre was still calling out the play. There's a little bit of miscommunication there, and he was like, oh, here we go. That's just what we need. And, of course, these annoying-ass Green Bay Packer fans, 10 billion times more annoying on this game than any time ever, folks. Ever. And I think you probably noticed that. I mean, just listening to their overreaction, kind of taunting screams every time anything went wrong to the Vikings. In any way, a drop pass, stopped in the run, or a completion for the Packers. It's just like, shut up. Jeez. It just got to be too much. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, getting annoyed at the fans, but it's like there was a little bit of They were just a little bit obnoxious, I think, in this game, more than ever. And that takes a lot of talent, folks. Yeah, this might be a little long show today because I'm feeling long-winded, folks. So grab a cup of coffee. Yeah, I mean, you'd expect a little extra dialogue in this game, wouldn't you? All right. Well, you thought the Vikings were a little bit screwed there after that fumble. It's like, here we go, Green Bay at the 20. And Aaron Rodgers, every time it seems like he throws the ball, it's caught for a first down and more. Yeah, we'll get to that. That did happen today. A lot, but not in the first half at all. As the Vikings shut down the Packers, and they have to settle for a 37-yard field goal. They didn't get anywhere, folks. 37-yard field goal when you recover a fumble on the 20? Ew, that's pretty bad. Good thing. It's like, wow, the Vikings defense came to play today. They're not bleeping around. Boy, did Ray Edwards and Jared Allen play well today. I mean, those defensive ends were phenomenal. There wasn't a single player on the defensive line other than maybe Brian Robinson. Of course, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't anything to do with him as a defensive lineman. It had to do with fumbling a kickoff later on. We'll get to that, too. That was awfully frustrating. But that defensive line, holy cow, did they play good. Kevin Williams was everywhere, shutting down, able to get to Aaron Rodgers at the right time. Vikings did fantastic against Ryan Grant. He's the last guy to run for 100 yards individually against the Vikings since 2007. That's pretty damn good. That shows you how good this run defense really is, despite the fact that it looked like they had a few holes in them very early. It was in the preseason and very early in the regular season, but they were able to shore it up, thank God. No 100-yard games against the Vikings still. Ryan Grant did not get it done. The ancient Amon Green returns looked pretty darn good on his kickoff returns, actually. Number 34, Amon Green. I remember him as number 30 from my memory. I don't know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I remember him as number 30, so that was kind of weird. Don't know why wouldn't give him his number back. Right? But, yeah, that's all the Packers were able to accomplish. And here come the Vikings. Favre throwing passes more than the Vikings running. Adrian Peterson struggling early on. The Packers' rush defense pretty darn good. Better than a lot of people may expect. Peterson having a really tough time against these Green Bay Packers historically. And the Vikings get to the goal line, fight it out, get really fortunate on a penalty. The Green Bay Packers screwed themselves several times yesterday, with numerous penalties that gave the Vikings costly first downs or changed situations from 4th and 6 to 4th and 1. And we'll get to that, too, in a sec. That's coming up real soon. But luckily, Adrian Peterson barely got over the plane to make it 7-3 Minnesota with only about a minute left in the first quarter. That was a nice finish. Vikings take the lead, and it's like, you could just, boy, did it feel good at that point in time, because here come the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, now Aaron Rodgers is going to start hurling fire. And here we go. This is going to be a shootout. It's going to be 42 to 41 is going to be the final today. It's going to frustrate the heck out of us. We're going to be up till midnight because we can't sleep, or beyond midnight, some of us, because of how crazy this game is going to be. Nope. The Vikings defense looks good. Aaron Rodgers does not look good. Don't know what the deal was with that, and hey, we'll take it. As the next drive, a lot more smooth. The last one, there was a lot of Packers defense looked pretty good, but the Vikings were able to overachieve. But on the second attempt, though, the Vikings go all the way, and Visanthe Shenko bringing in yet another touchdown pass. This was his 6th of the year. What an amazing year this guy's having. I just love the way he flings the ball up after he gets a touchdown. That's his signature. And Brett Favre's first ever touchdown pass as a Minnesota Viking, or as any opposing quarterback in Lambeau Field. So yet another touchdown pass for Favre in Lambeau Field. That, not an unusual thing, but as a Minnesota Viking, that was his first ever, and boy, oh boy, did this man hear boos just about every time he touched the ball. And yeah, usually the quarterback does touch the ball quite a bit in a game. Very crazy. The Vikings defense, again, looking just awesome this whole first half, doing fantastic. The Vikings have another good drive going. And, of course, as I mentioned, here it goes, 4th and 6. But then the Packers jump off sides inexplicably when the Vikings were going to kick a field goal. It would have been a fairly long one. And unfortunately, when it was 4th and 1, with about a foot and a half, Adrian Peterson stopped, and he just had this look on his face like, I can't believe this. Like he wanted to just kill somebody. But it looked like Visante Shenko got in the way a little bit, and that might have been what he's a little irritated about. He kind of Visante was trying to block, but it looked like he kind of got in the way a little too much. All you need to get is a foot and a half here, and you can't afford to have anybody get in the way. You have a split second to get that, couple inches, whatever, 18 inches. And it didn't happen. Luckily, the Packers had the ball only on the 20, so it's not like we shot ourselves, killed ourselves, gave them the ball on the 45 or something. No, the Packers do absolutely nothing, and the Vikings were able to get a field goal right before the half. So there's your 17-3 that a lot of fans thought we should have had anyway. Some people were mad at Childress for going for it. Nah, I wasn't mad about it. I mean, you're trying to take the wind out of the sails of this team, and you need to score. It's it's your opinion. If that was a bad decision, we got the field goal anyway later on. Thank God. 17-3 Minnesota going into the half, and it's like, well, this is easy, sort of. Let's hope this holds up. I mean, you're just scared to death. When's it going to happen? When Aaron Rodgers starts throwing, and there's about a 10-foot space for the guy to catch the ball. Nobody even close to him. Every time Aaron Rodgers throws the ball, whoever he's throwing it to, he could be throwing it to he could be throwing it to me. He could be throwing it to my unborn child, and it would be a first down. Because I don't have any kids at all. I'm not even close. Yeah, you know what I mean, folks? That's what I mean by that. Yeah. Whoever they are, they'd still catch the ball and it'd be a first down the way Aaron Rodgers was in the second half. Yeah. But the second half, it's like, the good news is Vikings are up 17-3, and they get the ball going into the second half. And Favre is able to connect to Percy Harvin just right out of the gate, 51-yard touchdown pass. Just absolutely awesome. Percy Harvin had a pretty big day, man. Dropped a lot of passes. I mean, he's still having a hard time. You don't usually want to go deep to this guy, but in this play, Harvin was able to bust loose for a 51-yard touchdown, 24-3, and it's like, oh my. Oh my, this is like too good to be true. We are routing the Packers in Lambeau Field, and this is just awesome. I guess we really are a much better team than the Packers after all. This is just too good to be true. And guess what, folks? It was, because the Packers marched down the field, one completion after another, and here we go. It's like I said, your unborn child could catch these, could catch these because that's how wide open these guys were. The prevent defense, cover two, they call it, it was whatever it is. They were using both of those, basically. And it was just one completion after another. The Vikings defense is able to stop the Packers from getting in the end zone. But it's like, uh-oh, that was kind of scary. Hopefully we can come back and score yet again and just bust this thing even further open, 31-6 or something. No. No, the Vikings offense gets nowhere. Struggle mightily. And here we go. One pass completion after another. Do I even need to go into it, folks? That's pretty much all it was. Aaron Rodgers gets it to Spencer Havner, 24-13. All of a sudden, it's an 11-point game. And, of course, there's a Lambeau leap to number 41, Spencer Havner. It was kind of almost like, who is this guy, basically? He's a guy, he's a former linebacker turned tight end. And it's like, oh, that's great. That's great. We're getting beat by a former linebacker. Wonderful. 24-13. Vikings offense absolutely zip again. And it's like, why does this have to happen? You can just feel the sweat building on your brow, folks, as the Packers get the ball back late in the third quarter. Same old swear word. You fill in the blank. Just every single time the guy threw the ball, it didn't matter. It was Greg Jennings. It was Donald Driver, who got hurt for a while but came back, luckily, after getting nailed in the head. I'm not sure exactly what the injury was, but he ended up coming back, luckily. The greatest Packer receiver ever. Not named Sterling Sharp, because Sterling Sharp didn't have a long enough career, unfortunately for him. It was just the same. Basically, it was like whatever the Packers did 5 minutes ago, they did it all over again. Spencer Havner, 2 touchdowns. And into the stands again, and they're taunting the Vikings again, and Favre is Benedict Arnold. Favre's, he's in the casket. I mean, what the heck is that? How morbid you got to be putting Favre in a casket? That was kind of sick. We'll never forget you, Brent. I mean, there's just one thing after another. I could go on forever. All the crazy stuff, all over the place in the newspapers. Then you could see on the TV. And whatever, if you were there, you get the idea. And it was like, oh boy, now what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? This totally sucks. But who's the guy that changed the tide last week, folks? Who's the guy that changed the tide last week when we thought we were dead and gone against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin made a 77-yard return, and the Vikings were able to capitalize. Brett Favre gets it to our kind of, little used tight end, Jeff Dugan, 31-20, and it's like, well, that's nice. That feels a lot better. We're up by 11 again. Sigh of relief for Vikings fans, and I'm sure players as well. But what did the Packers do? The exact same thing again. Completion. Aaron Rodgers going from almost no yards in the first half, and I mean almost none, to like about 1 billion yards in the second half. Utterly ridiculous. The Packers had so many yards in that second half. I mean, we're talking about 280 yards in the second half. That's sick. That's absolutely sick in one half. Plus the son of a gun. Every time you thought, okay, yeah, they're on 3rd and 6 or whatever, the guy would run for a gain. And on this particular drive, he had a 35-yard gain, which is like, no way. No way. Not only did we not shut him down, he's way up the field in a minimum field goal range. But no, it wasn't going to be a field goal, as they're just going to continue to get big plays. I mean, we're not going to stop him. It ended up being a touchdown pass to Greg Jennings, 31-26. But aside of all this, the Vikings still have the lead. That's the reassuring part. The Packers trailing by 5 at the time instead of kicking it. Wisely, you figure, hey, if you miss it, you're still down. You still have to score a touchdown to take the lead. Field goal doesn't do a damn thing. Extra point doesn't do you any good. So if you fail, it doesn't matter at all. 5 and 4 don't mean a blanking thing at all. They really don't. But if you do get the 2-point conversion, Packers merely need a field goal. And the way their offense is clicking at this point in time, a field goal, not too hard to imagine happening, especially with a good 11 or about 10 minutes. 30 seconds left in the game. But Kevin Williams' bicep, as he went up after Aaron Rodgers' pass on the 2-point conversion attempt, knocked down. His bicep got in the way just enough. Ryan Grant was unable to reel in the pass because the ball its passage got altered. Oh, I'm sorry. Green Bay does not make it a 3-point game. It's 31-26, so we can all sigh relief again. Because what happened on the next drive is the Vikings wisely run the clock down. Run the clock down quite a bit. Crazy, crazy game indeed. Able to run the clock down a little bit. Don't get anywhere the first attempt. But then they shut down the Packers. Finally shut down the Packers. The Packers actually have to kick again. And here come the Vikings again, running the ball a little bit, but then we start passing again. And I'm a little scared because you want to run the clock down. Luckily, one of those passes, though, early in this drive was to Adrian Peterson. As now, all of a sudden, AP has become a receiving back. Yes, he has. Yes, we can. Okay, sorry. That's what Adrian Peterson said about, can you catch passes from the backfield, Mr. Adrian Peterson? Yes, we can. 44 yards, Adrian Peterson takes off, gets the Vikings to about the 20. And Bernard Berrien, who struggled most of the day and has struggled most of the year, reels it in as Favre hits Bernard Berrien. And this would be Favre's 4th touchdown pass of the day. 4th touchdown pass of the day. Reminiscing of Randall Cunningham's 4 touchdown pass game in Lambeau Field many years ago against Brett Favre back in '98. But Favre is a better quarterback than Cunningham. And Favre is the former Packer legend that we had to beat back in those days, and just even all the way up to 07, Favre did it against his own team in Lambeau Field. God, it's so weird. 38-26, folks, and it's like, it's over. We finally beat these bastards. We finally shut up these loud, obnoxious people, and these bitter fans, these bitter players, just Aaron Rodgers, who at times looked unstoppable. Luckily, it didn't. The magic ran out for Aaron Rodgers. There was no Packer magic on this particular day. The Vikings forced the Packers to turn the ball over on downs, and of course, the clock is run down. The final 2 minutes run down to nothing, and we go home victors with a 7-1 record and a clean sweep of the Green Bay Packers and a 2.5. I keep saying 3-game lead. I am really sorry, folks. The Packers have played 7 games. The Vikings have played 8. It is a 2.5 game lead officially. So now as we go into the bye, it depends on how Green Bay plays next week, what our lead is. Will it be 2? Will it be 3? That's up to you Green Bay Packer fans out there. I'm sure there's some out there. There's a Schmitty out there might be listening, and it's a shout out to you, buddy. You're a good guy from thesportstuff.com and YouTube. I know him from there. Good guy. Good guy. And, of course, nothing against the Packer fans out there, but I just got tired of some of the craziness. I mean, anybody's going to get a little bit hyped up in a game like this, might get a little bit more irritated and a little bit more competitive, you could say, in a game like this than normal. It's just going to happen. But here's the craziest thing of all, and this is what's going to irritate any and every Packer fan in town. The Green Bay Packers didn't get a single sack on Brett Favre. They didn't sack him once. The Vikings offensive line has gone from a hologram to a stone wall. Fantastic. Not a single sack allowed by the Vikings offensive line. And against a team that wanted to do anything in their power to get to Brett Favre and sack the guy. Plus, obviously, the guy is not nearly as mobile as Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has taken a lot of sacks, though. Against the Minnesota Vikings. He took 8 last time around. He took 5 in this particular, 6 in this particular day. 2 by Ray Edwards, 1 by Pat Williams, who that was unbelievable. He just zipped right on through. Bad job by the offensive line of Green Bay. They just kind of slept on that one. And, because he just walked right through like nobody was even there. Jared Allen had 3 sacks against the Packers. It's 3. That makes 7.5 in 2 games against the Green Bay Packers. 7.5 in 2 games against the Packers. Now that is cool, folks. We all love John Randall and how he chased around the little chicken with the Favre jersey about circa 10 years ago, late 90s, 98-ish, 11 years ago, whatever. Yeah, they had to take that commercial off because it's like, he caught an animal and was he's grilling a chicken on the grill. You can't show that. That's animal abuse. Him chasing an animal. Next thing you know, he's cooking a chicken. He wasn't cooking that one, but it was like all for humor, of course. But man, that guy's Jared Allen right now, man, chasing Aaron Rodgers in a chicken Aaron Rodgers with a jersey on, whatever. Unbelievable. Just what an unbelievable job Jared Allen has done. He also had 5 total tackles on the day. The guy was everywhere, shutting down the run as well. I mean, this guy is so good. And I know why Farzine of the Chiefs Zone was so upset losing Jared Allen and why he keeps, going off on me like, you son of a bitch, you stole our best player. I don't blame him, but sorry. That's Carl Peterson, the guy who ruined the Chiefs. And right now, Jared Allen as a Minnesota Viking is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, along with Brett Favre as a Viking and Adrian Peterson. This is a really good football team, folks. We are very blessed to have this team in Minnesota right now. And it's amazing what has become of this team the last 3 years. Peterson, Allen, Favre. 1, 2, 3. That's as simple as 1, 2, 3, folks, to go along with guys that are already really good. I mean, folks, how about this? There's one of the reasons you could say, let's just say it didn't help why an Aaron Rodgers would have a great game. Well, Asher Allen was playing his position most of the day along with Carl Pema. And they were missing a lot of tackles along the way. See, not only were the Packers catching the ball, but Pema and Allen were missing tackles. They weren't wrapping the guys up. They had him halfway wrapped up, and the guy got right through him. Antoine Winfield wasn't there again. Second game in a row out with that sprained foot. So, well, luckily we're going into the bye. Maybe we'll see Antoine Winfield against Detroit. But, in a game like that, maybe he can afford to miss one more if it would mean that much more in healing up. As schedule gets a little tougher again after that. But we're not going to get into that right now. I just want to... My final comment on this game was it really did kind of have a little bit of a 98 feel. It wasn't as comfortable as 98. 98 was just you just put your feet up and enjoyed every minute of it because the Vikings were not supposed to be as good as they were that year, and they were unbelievable, and they beat the two-time defending conference champions and one-time Super Bowl champion and the best quarterback maybe ever, in his prime at the time. This was just unbelievable having that same guy on our team going into Lambeau Field and to play as well as he can at his age is a beautiful thing. And my final statement, folks, is I don't want this to end. I don't ever want this to end. I wish Brett Favre could be here forever. I wish he was 22, man. I wish he was 22 years old. And I don't want all this to end. I want this season to continue on course to what it is. Because if the Vikings are 7-1 in the second half, they will be 14-2. My official pick before the season started with Brett Favre was 12-4 upon defeating Baltimore. And now Green Bay, I see it as 13-3 overall. I don't want to say 14-2, even though I can see that when you look at the schedule, a very, very legitimate possibility. The Vikings could be 14-2 this year. But I'm going to stick with 13-3 right now. 13-3 overall, though. In the end, when you judge my record thing, it goes by 12-4, but this is my current ongoing pick, 13-3. So if that makes sense to you out there, very exciting, just a very touching game. This was, for me and probably for many other Viking fans. I know it might sound a little dorky, a little too sentimental, but it really was. This was something else, folks. I was kind of quiet after the game because it was just not only was it a little scary, but there was just there was a little extra in this game to this about 24 hours ago. It was unbelievable. So that's my final statement. I'm going to take a quick break, get into the Detroit Lions talk very briefly, and we'll see you then. Here on thesportstuff.com, we're turning up the tempo on Brave the Wild. A new era has come to the state of hockey with new attitude Martin Havlet, a more open style with Coach Todd Richards, and a new philosophy in General Manager Chuck Fletcher. We're available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Answer the call and get ready to brave the wild. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, episode number 48, a reminder for iPod, Microsoft Zune, and other MP3 player users. Thank you once again for joining this show. It is fantastic. Time to get into the Detroit Lions really briefly, and I mean really, really briefly. The Detroit Lions lose to the St. Louis Rams, and they lose to them at home, 17-10. Steve Spagnuolo, gets his first win as a head coach. The Rams are 1-7. The Lions are 1-6. If the Lions lose at home to the St. Louis Rams, they can lose to anybody, and that is why they were 0-16 last year. Matthew Stafford, completion percentage of only 42% against the St. Louis Rams. Brett Favre could have taken a sleeping pill before that game, wore a blindfold, and performed as well as he did in that game. He could have. That's how easy it was. Unfortunately, that cover two or prevent defense kind of gave Mr. It wasn't Mark Bulger. It was Kyle Bowler. Allowed him to get to the red zone on virtually every drive for a while there, but of course they'd bleep it up. They'd turn the ball over. Mark Bulger, who is, I think, one of the most mediocre quarterbacks in the league. Capable of putting up big numbers, but the guy, in the long run, is an average player at best. didn't do much against Detroit either. It was Steven Jackson's day, and that means Adrian Peterson's going to go off for about 150 as well. Steven Jackson, 149 and a touchdown. Didn't even have a long rush. His longest rush of the day was 26 yards, yet he averaged 6.8 a carry. Yeah, hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson for about a quarter or two, and the game will be over. You'll be resting the starters. And it's no offense to Lions fans either, but it's just, they're not ready to compete at a higher level right now. Vikings should pretty much hand the ball off. Don't overuse Favre's arm. No need for that. As if you can run against this team with that much ease, just do it. Then the game will end faster because the clock will just continue to tick, and that's all there is to it. Why not just get it over with and get out of there? Now, of course, this is 2 weeks from now, so anything can happen to the Detroit Lions here in the coming games. Actually, I believe they've already had their bye. Because they're 7 games in, the Rams are 8 games in. So, Detroit's already had their bye. Sometimes I get confused with that. I think everybody in our division should have their bye at the same time, wouldn't you think? They used to. I don't know what they're doing over there. But, Again, Kevin Smith, to me, is the strongest player on the Detroit Lions to worry about. Morris, though, had a good game as well, running the ball. He actually was the better running back with 63 yards, 4.5 a carry. But anybody can run on these St. Louis Rams as well. But Kevin Smith did have 4 catches, 49 yards. So the guy's a pretty good player overall. He's a good receiver and runner. But that's pretty much the deal there. Not much else to talk about the Detroit Lions. Don't expect the Vikings to lose that game. They will be 8-1. And because it's just, there's nothing more automatic. Knock on wood, by the way. Nothing more automatic than the Minnesota Vikings against Detroit in the Metrodome. I've never seen the Vikings lose to Detroit in the Metrodome. Because I started watching in 92. They probably lost a little bit before that. Like 91, most likely, because Detroit had their best season since forever in 91. I do remember that. I just didn't watch football yet. I was still kind of more of a baseball guy only back then when I was a 12-year-old. So there you go. Enough of me. More about football. That's going to conclude the Detroit talk. Other than that, more or less, I'm going to have a couple of quotes from Brett Favre. Packer fans cheer for the Packers first, Favre said. I know that, but I hope that everyone in the stadium watching tonight said, I sure hate those jokers on the other side, but he does play the way he's always played. And that's a good quote from Favre, and that's kind of how you should be about it. And luckily there were some nice Packer fans out there that are more honest. They love the game of football and not just, anybody wearing green and gold. I mean, you got to respect football. And Chief Hawk out there, who's a a very frequent, that was the word I'm trying to use, frequent poster on the sportstuff.com. He's from Iowa. He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan and obviously Iowa Hawkeyes fan. But he made a really good, strong statement last night saying that, what did the Minnesota Viking fans do when Brett Favre got the all-time leading yard and touchdown, all-time touchdown passing ever, got the all-time leading touchdown pass in the Metrodome? What did Viking fans do? They gave him a standing ovation because they respect the game of football. Well, not all of them do. Not all of them do, folks. I'm going to be more objective than that. I apologize, but still, that's respecting the game of football right there and respecting a player despite where he plays and what jersey he's wearing and all that good stuff and how many of the fans of that team you don't like or whatever because they constantly talk smack. That's respecting the game of football because this man is a legend regardless of what team he's on, including the Green Bay Packers. Because what did I do when I watched that game? I stood and clapped for Brett Favre as well. Even though I wasn't at the game, I stood and clapped for him in the living room because, it's a most amazing feat I've ever seen. And of course, there's a video on YouTube. It's still up there from the 2 years ago when that all took place, where I talked about Brett Favre respecting him and all that good stuff. New York Knicks fans did it for Michael Jordan when he walked off the court as a Chicago Bull against the New York Knicks for the final time as a Bull, because they figured that was the last game Jordan had ever played there. Of course, he came back as a Wizard, but whatever. A lot of them figured that was it. They all stood and clapped despite what Michael Jordan did to the New York Knicks. He kept them out of the NBA Finals, forever, and they never got a championship. So Vikings don't have a title yet, and Favre has kept us away from some division championships, and he's won a Super Bowl title with the Packers, and yet we stood and clapped for him. Yet so many Green Bay Packer fans were kind of going over the top. And now I know the situation's a little different, but still, because it's like your star leaving you for another team after the Packers kicked him out, and that's another part of the statement that Chief Hawk made. And Chief Hawk, you're absolutely right. If you're listening, you're absolutely right. You get a thumbs up from me. Of course, he's a frequent listener of that same Chiefs Zone, hosted by Farzin Vasugian. Well, I am Joey Awajan, also Palladino Joey, and that's my final statement on the game. I just had to get to that still, because, you got to get some quotes, you got to get some thoughts out there. And it was nice to see some Packer fans at the end there saying, we miss you, Brett, we still love you, and all that kind of stuff. You're still the best, that kind of stuff. And those are football fans. Football first, and then your home team second. You got to love football for what it is, not just about, not just the rivalry, as fun as they are, and they are fun, folks. But football and respecting the game is, to me, is the most important thing. And my hat's off to those Packer fans that did that, and that's all there is to it. In such a hostile environment as that game was yesterday, and I'm just glad we were able to come out with the victory. And with Favre, who didn't once have anything to say to the Packers at all in a negative way. In fact, he came over to help Greg Jennings and wished him the best. Just gave him a little tease along the way, a little smile. But, it was nice to see that Packer players also did not try to injure Brett Favre or try to do anything stupid as well. So hats off to both sides on the field, and that's what matters most. All right. With that, I'm going to conclude the show today. I was a little bit more rambly, but it was a very emotional game, and I have a lot to say. I could go on for another 3 hours, but I'm not going to do that. That's just not going to happen. And thank all of you for listening to the show today. I really hope you did enjoy it. Please tell a friend. Don't forget to call into the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877. Voicemail. It is a voicemail call. Mention you're calling into Palladino or Purple Mafia. I used to be Palladino Live. Purple Mafia. And your statement, shout out, opinion, leave your name and town. And there you go. Don't forget to sign up for the message boards. We need you on there. More Viking fans, more Minnesotans on there. Mention me as the referral, Palladino Live. And other than that, PalladinoLive@yahoo.com. PalladinoLive@yahoo.com. That's one word, of course. That is how you can reach me via email and sign up for my Facebook group, Palladino Live Productions. Palladino Live Productions, which, of course, is all three of my shows, as you heard 2 ads earlier. Palladino Live Productions is the whole enchilada of what I do via, being Minnesota sports and YouTube videos and all that good stuff. So there you go. Thank you always for being a part of this show. Thank you for putting up with my obnoxious rambling and my emotion, be it sentimental or whatever you want to call it. Thank you for that very much. And we will talk to you in about 2 weeks. Also be on the aware there's a chance it might be longer than 2 weeks because of the lawn cleanup season that is upon us. Yes, lawn cleanups, that is my second job. I mow lawns in the summer, and then unfortunately lawn cleanups in the spring and fall every November and April. So I may or may not be available, but I'm going to try my damnedest to be available. I mean, of course, my new schedule might open that up a little bit more in these evenings. So we'll see what happens. Until then, go Vikings. Let's keep this run going. Is 14-2 going to happen, or is it 13-3? Well, anything less than that would not be good. So go Vikings. Take care, guys.